Welcome to Good for Bitcoin, a weekly show recorded live every Friday, where we recap the top events of the week and talk about everything that is good for Bitcoin. If it's built on Bitcoin, then it's good for Bitcoin. Let's get started.
Content shared on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and do not reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, or company. We encourage you to conduct your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.
Well, hello, everybody, and happy Friday. It is another week, another Good for Bitcoin week. My name is Brandon, social media manager at Trust Machines, also joined by Longstreet. Longstreet, happy Friday, sir.
Happy Friday, Brandon. How was the week for you?
It was a good week. It seemed like a pretty busy week, another busy week. I feel like last week was also one of those busy weeks, but lots of good stuff happened this week. I don't know about you, feeling a little FOMO for all of the stuff going on with Bitcoin Amsterdam and all of these side events and seeing all the photos that everyone is posting. Definitely feeling some FOMO there. You're maybe a little closer to Amsterdam. How are you feeling about what's going on there?
Well, the closer the proximity, the greater the FOMO, because what's my excuse for not being there? It's in Amsterdam. I could have taken just a short flight over, but yeah, I couldn't make it this year. So it's too bad. I was at Built on Bitcoin Unleashed last year in London. Super fun. Got to see so many great people in person. But yeah, I couldn't make it work this year. So the FOMO was real. But I do love everything that I'm seeing coming out, including some of the artwork, which I think we're going to talk about too.
We are definitely going to talk about that. We have a really fun collaboration that we did, but I mean, listen, there's so many conferences every year, right? It's just impossible to go to all of them. So, we had a round of, conferences a week or two ago with like Permissionless and some others. And I was also feeling a little FOMO, right? Because Salt Lake City is not very far away from me and similar vibes. So, there's so many conferences, so many things to do. Not enough time to do them. Not enough money to travel to all of them. It's real.
I heard someone. This may have been on Peter McCormack's new show, talking about how much of a grind it can be just living that lifestyle where you're traveling all the time, you're adjusting to new time zones all the time. Like it takes a toll on your health. So you do have to strike a balance, and that's one of the important things that we all need to consider. Like we can't do everything.
Yeah, this is a bit of a sidebar, I guess. But speaking of Peter's new show, for those that don't know, he had a very, very long established Bitcoin show, and he is basically he stopped doing that show, and he's doing kind of his own show under kind of his own name, and it's not like Bitcoin focused anymore. But one thing that was interesting was he really wants to focus a lot more on in-person podcasts. Like he doesn't want to do like remote podcasts, like kind of like what we're doing right now. And it made me think about what an amazing time we had doing the live Leather Lounge in Nashville, and how much I want to do more of those when we do attend more events. So definitely look forward to that. But definitely made me think about what an amazing show that was. And so it was there was so much energy. You could really feel the difference between that show and the others that we've done.
Yes, there will be more. I know that was a good time.
Well, anyway, we have a lot of product news to talk about. We have a lot of industry news to talk about. Let's get into it. First one, honestly, there's been so much going on this week. It feels like it was so long ago that we announced this. It was on Monday, but very exciting. We announced that Leather has now integrated Bitflow Finance for swaps. Bitflow Finance is very cool because it is not just one exchange, it is an aggregator. So it aggregates across Alex and Velar and Arcadico to essentially give you the best rates possible and give you the most coins possible that are available. Previously, we were just integrated with Alex. So any coins that were not on Alex but were on Velar or Arcadico were previously not available. So while it just basically opened up many new tokens to be traded directly within Leather. And Bitflow just does all these smart things in the background to make sure that it is as cheap as possible, basically, to do. It chooses kind of the cheapest route for whatever trade that you're trying to do. So it's very cool. It does it all in the background, and we're big fans of Bitflow. We joined their space the other day with Xverse, which was interesting and fun to have both Leather and Xverse on a space talking. Yeah, that was interesting. But because they also integrated Bitflow this week, so I guess I'll give them a shout out too. But yeah, very cool. We love Bitflow. We're excited to do more things with them as well. We're not ready to announce specifics yet, but we they have a Zeely that is pretty active. Leather is going to have a Zeely that is pretty active, so we're just excited to do some more collaborations with them pretty soon.
Yep. And another example of, Diego and Dylan being both Stacks OGs that are they were primed and ready, always building, and now shipping too. So yeah, I'm looking at this swap process. So for example, if I wanted to swap Stacks to Arcadico, it says powered by Velar and Alex via Bitflow, and it shows you the route. So while it's under the hood, it's not like secret, right? Like you can still see what's happening, but it's not like painfully obvious. You don't have to like make choices. So pretty slick. It's great.
Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy, I think, for how Leather tries to approach things like this in general, right? Is we want to make things as easy as possible, and we, abstract away maybe some of the more technical stuff, but still not in a way where we're hiding information from you, right? You can still see what's going on. But like you said, you don't have to make all these choices, and you can just get in and get out and, do the action that you want, and try to make that as seamless as possible.
Yeah, exactly. So we teased a little bit of the art for Bitcoin Amsterdam. Tell us what the partnership is with Leather and Gamma.
Yeah, so this is very exciting. I definitely want to give a shout out to Shaylee. I saw she was in the audience, but I'm not sure if she was available to come up. But Shaylee was working a lot with this partnership, kind of behind the scenes, to get it prepared for this week. And I'll just get into it. So basically, Leather and Gamma are collaborating on a special print that is created, kind of inspired by both Leather's kind of dark black and white aesthetic, and then also Bitcoin Amsterdam, because it is featuring this really cool tulip art that was hand designed or made by Nate Hill, who has made a lot of very cool things on Gamma already, but a new drop from Nate Hill. The drop is only available for 24 hours. So now it is less than 24 hours. So we'll get that pinned to the space. If you're listening in podcast form, you might be too late, but this is happening on Friday. And very exciting. I minted a few just so I can potentially give out one or two to some friends, because it's only available for such a limited time. But really, really cool collaboration. I expect us to do actually some more things in the kind of near future, with some more artist collaborations. So definitely very excited for that as well. But please go check it out. Go support the artist. It's only 10,000 sats for a print. So very, very inexpensive for a very high quality piece from a really wonderful artist, from Nate Hill. So shout out to Nate. And thank you, Gamma, for helping to do this with us.
Yeah, and it's only mintable with Leather Wallet. Just want to remind people. So get that Leather Wallet. Make sure you signed in. Head over to Gamma and get some good art.
I mean, I didn't notice that, but that's a great addition. To I just used Leather, so I didn't realize that it was exclusive to Leather. So look at that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, nice little. Let's see, what else do we have going on here?
Well, this was another announcement for another smaller, I guess, feature addition that I just want to mention is the ability to show and hide asset balances, which is something that people have been asking us for a very long time. So I'm really excited that we also have this feature. It was a little bit overshadowed by the Bitflow announcement, which was, kind of the flagship feature of the week, but definitely a welcome feature, especially with all these things heating up on Stacks, all these airdrops that are continuing to happen. some of these airdrops, can kind of be junk sometimes. Let's be honest. So it is nice to be able to hide some of those things that you might not want to see. And yeah, just a very welcome feature, so you can kind of focus on the feature or the assets in Leather that are most important to you, and you can hide the rest.
So how does the hide work? Do you right click on it? How can you hide some of these things?
Yeah, so I guess so. Technically, it's not live in the store yet. So I think I'm jumping the gun slightly on this announcement, but maybe by the time that you're listening to this, I think on Monday or so, it should come out. So I guess there's a little alpha for you, and then we also have the ability to like a privacy as well. So you can, if you don't, maybe you're traveling, you're on the plane or something. You're checking you're opening your Leather to do some sort of action, and you don't want to reveal, your USD or your token balance that you have. You have the ability now to hide that as well. So, yeah, a lot of cool features coming out, or that have come out, or are coming out in the very, very near future for Leather.
Nice. Okay, good. Yeah, I don't want people to see that I only have $2 worth of Bitcoin on my.
Yeah, maybe it's just out of shame. Well, I would love to hear. I listened to the show yesterday, so I don't need the recap, but would love for you to talk about the show yesterday with Joe from Lunar Crush, which was really entertaining show. Joe was a really great guest, but would love for you to recap that for us.
Yeah, it was another great one. So Joe is a longtime Bitcoiner and Stacks OG as well. We did dig into his origins and some of his other activities in the Stacks ecosystem, but primarily this was to focus on Lunar Crush, which is a social platform, and he had a lot of really great insights about the power of leveraging social media and the analytics of it. And they created this to really create transparency on the internet and to democratize data, to give everyone the power, just like for a really low fee, a monthly fee of $30 a month, to be able to access their APIs. And I think most of us, we've heard of Lunar Crush in the crypto ecosystem, but they touch everything. If you want to know about Nike, if you want to know like what words are people searching for, just like in anything, it can be brand names, it can be trends. So anything, you can look it up and use that to your advantage. If you're a trader, or if you are a content creator, or if you're a platform like Leather and you want to know like what's trending right now. So it's a super powerful platform, which obviously we dug into the details of that, but beyond that, it was great to hear Joe's perspective on the current state of things, current trends, what he's excited about, and other projects that he's been involved with, like Nakamoto One, which is a Stacks NFT project where they are putting this like treasure hunt together so that if you go to the moon, they're going to have a rover on the moon with a Bitcoin address and a Stacks address. So you go there and you get like this stash of Bitcoin, and it also comes with a lot of Stacks NFTs, which I've donated to as well. So it's a super fun project that's been 3 years in the making. They should be launching in December. That's the next window. And we also talked about like, how do you balance an active, busy lifestyle, especially as a startup founder and CEO and a father and a mentor to people. So it was a tight show, 60 minutes, just packed with a lot of really great info. So that is now on our podcast feed, which I can pin to the nest.
Yeah, it was a really great convo. I also was somewhat selfishly looking forward to the episode as well. Especially some of the questions that Kate had on their kind of community platform that they also have. And I see some folks in our audience right now that I think I see Dave in the audience. Shout out to Dave, who would probably be interested in some of the things that we have coming up with Lunar Crush on the Leather side, to potentially make use of that. So very exciting. Overall, I just really love what they're doing with community. and how it incentivizes kind of good behaviors and good actions. It's not just like incentivizing people to spam, the network with mentions of leather, for example, right? It's actually rewarding good behaviors and quality content. And I really appreciate that about their platform compared to some of the other platforms that are out there. So yeah, expect more announcements in the future. But yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, good point. When he was mentioning the various use cases, the people who Lunar Crush serves, Dave definitely came to mind because I know he's active in the space. And I also do want to shout out some other Stacks royalty that we have in the audience, and that is Good Kitty and Trippin' Monkey. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, and Shaylee, I know you came up kind of quietly into the speaker slot if you want to. I know we kind of moved on from the gamma conversation a little bit already, but if there's anything that you want to add there, please feel free.
I just wanted to give a shout out to La Good Society, a woman named Tia, who is the person that reached out to us to collaborate with showcasing some fantastic ordinals artists, in on the streets of Amsterdam on billboards. So that was wonderful to see, and we plan to do more with those artists in the future with leather. So be on the lookout for that.
Thank you so much for reminding me of that, because that is so important. And yeah, I mean, we're so focused on just this mint with Nate Hill, but yeah, we did a really great collaboration, like Shaylee said, with La Good Society, and had some other artists work on some billboards. Leather was actually on some billboards in Amsterdam, which is so cool. But it featured some art from Nate Hill and La Good Society, but also we had ones from Harto and Emmanuel and Gigi and a few others. So I'll try to pin the post that showcases one of the billboards. But yeah, very, very cool stuff.
Well, I think we're going to have to transition to Taproot, because anytime I see Taproot and Lightning, I think of Brandon. So what's new this week?
Yeah, so this was pretty cool update from Coinbase. So Coinbase has essentially enabled Bitcoin transfers to Taproot wallets, and to kind of explain why this is sort of a bigger deal, and I guess just give a little bit more context. Taproot is a feature of Bitcoin that has been around for several years now. It really, though, only came into prominence or wider use with the introduction of ordinals. Before ordinals was a thing, Taproot, the I don't want to say protocol of Taproot, because Taproot is basically a soft fork of Bitcoin, came out in, I believe, 2021. It's been around for some time now, but nobody was really using it until ordinals came out. So Coinbase has now adopted this, and that doesn't mean that they're now supporting ordinals, but it does mean that they are going to be supporting some of the benefits that come with Taproot. Specifically, things can be a little bit cheaper. There are some privacy benefits to Taproot as well. I was a little intrigued by this just because when you do talk about like Taproot features, typically privacy is what is commonly cited. It uses like these things called Schnorr signatures and Merkle trees to create kind of more private transactions, which if you're using Coinbase, there's no privacy there at all, right? So like that doesn't really apply, I guess, to Coinbase. But it does have the ability to, I guess, compress transactions a little bit more. So it makes transaction fees a little cheaper on the network when you use Taproot transactions versus SegWit by comparison. So yeah, it's just cool, that the industry is moving into the right direction, right, of adopting these newer Bitcoin standards. It's not sort of stuck in the past of supporting these older kind of transaction types, and just a cool update. And hey, maybe this will clear the way for inscription support or runes support in the future. We'll see. But yeah, still a cool update nonetheless.
Yeah, it'll get there eventually. I think that it's probably low priority, and obviously, like runes and ordinals are still far out on the risky experimental curve. I don't. It probably doesn't make sense for them to prioritize it right now, but we're gonna want all of our art centralized one day, I guess. Because some people will.
Yeah, I mean, if not for the liquidity, maybe less for inscriptions, more for things like runes. I think people are potentially a little bit more receptive to doing that with runes. We also have seen just a really big explosion in runes this week, in particular. There's been, I think, a lot of things cooking on the Magic Eden side, and some other runes announcements that we're going to get into. But yeah, more liquidity is good for traders, and that
But
would
Brand,
certainly enable that.
runes died. How is that possible?
Runes were dead. Runes have been dead for a while. Yeah, I think it's just the market has just been flat. Not necessarily dead, but it just hasn't really been that exciting. But yeah, we've seen, I think just this week, like the price of like dog Go to the Moon, which is the biggest kind of rune token, has almost like doubled, I think, this week, or maybe even more than that. There's just been, yeah, I think a big surge in attention to runes for whatever reason. And Dave, welcome up to the show. I don't know if you want to have or if you have any additional insight into some of the stuff that's happening on runes. I think you might have a little bit more head on the ground insight there.
Yeah, man. What's up, Trust Machines crew? Longstreet, Brandon, Chili, what's good? Yeah, man. There is a lot going on right now, and I think this is the time for read between the lines, right? So when you look at like just genuine like trading volume, right? Because like I come from a trading background, okay, and when you see how much like the conviction that Leonidas and To and all these guys have been really putting in to like push like ruins, right? I think like this thing is going to be like Doggo to the Moon. I think is a no brainer. I think it's going to be it's going to sneeze and it'll be at $1 billion market cap. But what I look at is $20 million in volume, 24-hour volume yesterday, $28 million in volume today, and it's not stopping. Up and away. It's up almost 40% to your point, Brandon, on the week, right? And I had to yesterday, like I had to go out and like pick up like even just a small little bag, right? I mean, looking back now, I mean, I'm glad I made the bag I did when I when I got my allocation initially and I for my runestone and I sold it for the 3K. That was amazing. But now I think is really when the real stuff starts. And the reason I think you're seeing this kind of volume is because when you have a token like this that is launched that is fully like divest, like nobody, like there's no marketing wallet that's sitting somewhere. These are the market makers now from these big, and this is where I think that like the whole Coinbase Taproot news is huge, because now as market makers they are salivating over this, even if they have to go out and buy it themselves. They don't care about $100,000 or $50,000 listing fee if you're not able to make it. They make their money off of churning out volume like crazy. For those that don't remember Shiba Inu, when Shiba Inu listed on Coinbase, you were talking trillions and trillions of tokens in volume that traded hands, which was hundreds of millions, if not, I think it was billions of dollars. So that's how they make money. These, in my opinion, and again, this is my opinion, NFA, blah, 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 all that fun stuff. But these are the market makers that are out there now that are buying up this stock and literally like padding their coffers right now so that they're going to have enough to be able to genuinely make a seriously liquid market. And I can't not see, especially with now CBBTC coming out, like the writing is on the wall. Like I said, read between the lines. To me, everything is right there for people to just take a look at. You just got to have your eyes open to be able to see it, man. But I'm hella bullish on everything Bitcoin right now because there is so much money on the sidelines, and I think Coinbase sees it too.
Yeah, I feel like we're definitely feeling that, especially this week. It feels like things are kind of getting a little bit more revitalized in general. People are getting a little excited about all the things that are coming. It's October. People are just getting generally very excited for this Q4 because historically it has meant good things for a lot of prices out there. So yeah, I think it's very interesting. You know, it's very cool to see runes doing so well, given that we don't have a lot of major listings on major exchanges, like on Binance, for example, right? That's kind of been the thing that Leonidas has been pushing, is for Binance to list dog for the longest time. And part of that is, they're not willing to pay fees, to get those listing fees on there. But I think what it's more simply is just like the infrastructure on these centralized exchanges hasn't really been built out yet. Like they like physically just can't support it. I don't think they're like making the decision, oh, we don't like dog. I just think they're just like, oh, we can't support runes yet. And they're working on it, of course. But yeah, we're just seeing a little bit more infrastructure, I guess, supported. Going back to this Coinbase news, hey, we need to support Taproot wallets before we can support runes, right? So we're a little bit baby steps, but we're getting there for sure.
I can't agree. I couldn't agree more with you guys, man. Like, I'm seeing it so clearly now. I'm just like, wow, like this is it. And if you guys remember how like the whole ordinals thing went down, like it's almost like the same exact path. And now you have all these other headwinds like that are at our back, right? Like that it's just pushing us forward from the regulatory side. There's just so many different factors now where, and look, like I was in Singapore and I heard firsthand the amount of Bitcoin that is genuinely sitting on the sidelines. I feel like I'm a broken record, and people are probably tired of hearing me say the same shit, but like, it's the truth, man. There are so many people that have Bitcoin just sitting on the sidelines that are looking for yield, right? Like with the least amount of risk possible. But there's also some that are willing to take on a little bit of risk, and that they see, like, look, when Leonidas and this crew, like whether it's Dog or really any other runes token, right? Like when they see some stuff like this, and they're like, okay, now Taproot is being enabled for Coinbase. Like, I think that they're going to start piling. There's going to be like money that's piling in here. This was the whole point of the Bitcoin ETFs. The smart money, like the institutional money, is there, and I think we're going to see like some wild stuff come Q4 and hopefully into the beginning of next year.
Yeah, it does feel like the events that recently happened, like at KBW and Singapore, really was, it kind of marked the bottom. It feels like almost like there was just this renewed energy almost since those events that I've felt in this space. So definitely great insights. Dave, feel free to stick around. We have a few more things that we want to kind of get to news wise, but appreciate your insights. Thanks for coming up and joining us.
For sure.
Yeah, well, with that, I guess we should transition to the next chapter of the show, and that is catharsis and the SEC.
Yeah, this was a news story that came out, and there was, I wasn't going to talk about this because it didn't really directly affect Bitcoin, but then they brought the SEC into it, and then it kind of became a little bit more relevant. But basically, there was news that the SEC was or had given Crypto.com a Wells notice, which I believe was something that we covered a few weeks ago potentially. But now Crypto.com is suing the SEC, and one of the SEC commissioners, Mark Ueda, was doing, I think, a little bit of a press tour, kind of given this news that Crypto.com is suing the SEC, and he seems to be firmly on the side of crypto, specifically calling it or the SEC's approach a disaster for the whole industry. To read his quote, it says, "Our policies and our approach for the last few years has really been a disaster for the whole industry." And then he went on to talk about them doing a lot of policy by enforcement, which we have certainly talked about on this show, while simultaneously not really providing any guidance on how to, stay within the lines, because there are no lines to stay within. And yeah, he just really talked about, Crypto.com is suing the SEC because, in his words, he's just talking about it being part of this frustration that, the industry feels by not having enough guidance to operate within the US.
It's crazy that anyone needs to clarify that, yes, a no-brainer, clearer regulatory guidelines are needed before enforcement actions are taken. Like, why do we need another grown-up in the room to say that? It's not obvious.
Yeah, I do think, though, it is at least a good reminder. Mark Ueda is an SEC commissioner. The SEC is not only Gary Gensler, right? It is made up of multiple people. We have Mark Ueda here, who is clearly on the side of the SEC sort of mistreating the industry. Hester Peirce is another commissioner who has long been kind of an advocate for treating the crypto industry fairly. So there are definitely some good folks over there as well. It's not all a bunch of Gary Genslers over there, but hopefully we will see some change come soon on that front. And yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that.
I feel like.
Did you guys see the other FBI sting operation with Next Fund AI?
I did see that. I wasn't going to talk about that, but do you want to talk a little bit about that, Dave? Do you want to cue that up in terms of what the FBI did?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually ran a space on Mario's channel. We did like a live breaking news space, and I don't know how many people in that ridiculous space. It was nuts, but we talked about Next Fund AI and how the FBI literally over like the course of, I think it was from 2018 until now, was just like launching tokens, essentially like a honeypot, right? Just trying to like lure like all these bad actors, like lure them in and kind of see firsthand exactly what they do. And the craziest part about all of it, and look, I genuinely believe that there's feds listening in on everything. So like people need to operate out here as if like anything you say, just imagine it being read in a court of law, being like, sorry, hey, can you read back what Dave just, can you read back that last statement that Dave said in a Twitter space? And then if you think about it in that way, I promise you, like, you'll be very careful about what you say out here. But yeah, like there was a whole sting operation. They got for those that remember, like Saitama and Robo Inu and all these other things. They laid out a honeypot, and these monster players, these massive market makers, like were insanely involved in massive market manipulation. And if we think that that's not either coming to Bitcoin or that's not already here, just because we don't have like all the crazy infrastructure that maybe Ethereum has built out already, I think that's a very, very short-sighted approach. So I think people need to just really assume that there's always somebody watching out here, because you can't make this much money, right? Like there's too much money in crypto now for the feds to ignore. And when Fairshake literally is now like the crypto super PAC is the biggest super PAC in Washington, you better believe that everybody's paying attention. And the SEC made $6 billion off of crypto, fines, settlements, this, that, over the last 365 days. So just put that in perspective. However they're looking at this, the feds are out here. Be very, very careful. But that story was crazy. Market manipulation, pumping volumes, hedge funds that were literally focused on meme coins. I actually met with one of these guys in Singapore with Gotbit. Market makers that are supposed to be providing liquidity are openly saying in their sales decks, hey, we're going to essentially pump this artificially so that we can essentially create the FOMO effect, and then we can just dump on everybody. So everybody needs to be very well aware and have their eyes open. But this is a very, very real thing, and it is crazy.
Yeah, I'd like to think that nobody listening to this show would be would fall for investing in one of these like tokens that is fake, but you never know, right? Like I guess they're becoming more and more convincing, and it's a good reminder to maybe just look at Bitcoin, right? Nobody's holding and gonna pump and dump and maybe except Michael Saylor Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's a little bit more safe, so let's just focus on that.
I'm sorry, it's not enough. I need 10x, and maybe I even need 100x. It's not enough. I got to chase that.
There it is. You see,
that's
right
it,
there.
right?
That's it.
Yeah.
That once you create that FOMO, nobody here buys the red candles and sells the green. They buy the green and sell the red. It's the wildest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Well, thanks for bringing that up, Dave. Appreciate it. Moving on to another story here we have, which is kind of talking about on the similar line of runes. Mempool Space has added a few new features, which are pretty cool. I think when runes and when inscriptions first came out, I think the team behind mempool.space was pretty reluctant, to support them. But now they have added some specific features to showcase runes, right? Obviously, runes and inscriptions both show up on the blockchain. It's interesting and useful to see some of that information. So, in terms of inscriptions, they now will show. For one, they show if a transaction contains an inscription, but now they're actually showing the file type of that inscription, and also the size. So you can actually see the file size that is on the blockchain. You can't see the actual inscription content yet. You still need to go to somewhere like ordinals.com for that. But pretty cool that they are kind of rolling out some support there for inscriptions. And runes is almost like a full featured support. It includes like full information on like the token name, the symbol, the amount, what action is being done, whether it's being like minted or transferred. So very cool to see some additional support there. Leather, is a enterprise sponsor of mempool.space. We have mempool.space integrated directly into Leather for some of the fee calculation and some of the other features. So really cool to see them support more features of Leather with inscriptions and runes. I'd like to think that hopefully we had a little bit of something to do with that. I don't know, with them getting a little bit more comfortable with it. Because when you look on their enterprise sponsors, you see folks like Spiral, or Square or Block or whatever, and some centralized exchanges, and then you see Leather there as kind of one of the only wallets that is supporting some of these newer features like runes and inscriptions. So really cool to kind of be part of that group on the enterprise sponsor list. But very cool. Shout out to mempool.space. They're a really great group of people making a fantastic tool, a fantastic resource for visualizing fees on Bitcoin and seeing transactions and all the fun things that are happening within them.
Nice. What do you use mempool.space for? Because I know a year and over the last 2 years, it's been obvious to watch the mempool, but now there's more features. So,
I mean, that's definitely still like I'm still using it just to kind of see what are mostly just fee visualization, right? What are the trending fees? Fees have actually spiked up quite a bit this week. We haven't really talked about that, but right now the average sats per VByte is around like 40. Where a few weeks ago, or maybe even just only a week ago, it was like 4. So the fees have definitely gone up quite a bit. I think a lot of that is all of this rune activity that's been happening lately. Ton of runes activity, but we saw the Babylon staking also went through, I think, this week. There's just a lot of usage and a lot of things that are happening on the L1 right now, which is very exciting.
Nice. Love to see it. Well, what about something that we hinted at last week and talked about, the much anticipated HBO documentary, Who is Satoshi Nakamoto?
Yeah, Dave, did you watch the show?
Yeah, I watched it 3 times just so I can make sure that I got everything. And if I'm being honest, I actually fucking believed him. I don't know if it's good filmmaking or good documentary, but the way I'm good at reading body language, the way Peter Todd was at the end of that thing, man, I don't know. It sounded super plausible. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I would agree. So, well, let's take the Who is Satoshi thing out of it, right? I think just looking at the documentary in general, I think it was a very well produced, very well written, very well researched documentary. Like it really dove into Bitcoin history, I think, quite well. Talking about a lot of the major things, especially going into some of the scaling issues, right? And then what came about from, the Civil War, and talking about kind of the aftermath of that. A lot of that, resonated a lot with me because that is what really inspired a lot of, this big L2 movement, right? As a result of that, even though they didn't really talk about L2s as much, they talked about Bitcoin maximalism in a very objective way. Even though they were, interviewing a lot of folks that are very much in kind of that Bitcoin maxi camp, like Adam Back and Peter Todd and Samson Mao and There was some surprise guests in there that I was surprised to see as well. Like Roger Ver was in there pretty heavily, which was very interesting. Obviously, he, most Bitcoiners don't really like him, but he definitely is a very historic figure in Bitcoin. So it was really cool to at least see him featured in there. Again, I think it was just a really well researched documentary. But yeah, I mean, getting into the actual prediction, I guess it's spoiler. It's not really a spoiler. It was all over Twitter with them predicting that it was actually Peter Todd who is Satoshi. And yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I do agree, Dave. I feel like it is pretty. They do make a pretty good case for it. Kind of the discovery. One of the main kind of discoveries or reasons for speculation was this reply that he had made to Satoshi on the Bitcoin Talk forums back in like 2010. And Satoshi had made this post, this kind of longer post, and it was a little bit more technical. And then about like an hour later, Peter Todd replied to Satoshi, and it looked like it was more of a sort of continuation of thought rather than replying with like a counter argument or anything like that. And it just was very curious because this was one of Peter Todd's first posts on the forum. So it wasn't like he was like an established, Bitcoin figure yet that knew a lot of the ins and outs of how the protocol worked. And it was kind of a slightly more technical reply. And that was kind of one of the things that made the director of the documentary kind of stop and say like, hey, this is a little weird, right? This is a little weird that this guy who has not really made any posts on the forum before is replying to Satoshi about an hour later with, just something that seemed a little too smart, honestly. So it was interesting, to kind of consider that when we were looking, last week when we were talking about who, some of the likely people were looking at, like Polymarket, for example, right? A lot of people were predicting that it was going to be like Len Sassman or Adam Back or some of the other, or Hal Finney, some of the other folks that we very commonly hear speculated. And I don't even think Peter Todd was in Polymarket at all, right? Like nobody like thought about it. So interesting, that it was him. We did actually, Peter Todd, I think, is not like talked about, I guess, very, very much, like compared to these other folks. We did talk about him or I first wrote about Peter Todd last year when we did a Twitter thread on RGB and that protocol. Peter Todd had written some of the concepts that are very prominently used in the RGB protocol, specifically client-side validation and single-use seals. And we don't need to get into it because it's not as relevant for this, but it's just interesting to see Peter Todd, I guess, pushed up into this, this prominent spot. He probably hasn't had this much attention on him ever. So yeah, it's very interesting. But yeah, curious, both for you, Dave and Longstreet, your thoughts.
Doesn't he say at the end, like, the Bitcoin community is going to find this hilarious when you claim that I'm Satoshi?
He did say that. Yeah, he was kind of, so yeah, it's interesting. I mean, throughout the thing, he did at one point in the documentary just like flat out say like, oh yeah, I'm Satoshi. He's sort of being kind of like coy and kind of jokey about it, and I think that's his personality. But yeah, I mean, maybe he's just been very successful. Who knows? at duping us.
I feel like but the whole Adam Back thing, like, I don't know why they would agree to get on camera, because like guys like this are super socially awkward, right? And it's almost like it's written all over their face, and it makes perfect sense to me. Like, Adam started Blockstream so that he can ultimately like have like the front for being able to utilize all of this like Bitcoin that was mined in the early days, and essentially it not be, I guess, like detected, if you want to say, in a way, right? So Satoshi's wallet, I don't think nobody, as long as Satoshi's wallet stays intact, nobody's going to ask any questions, right? So I don't know. I think, like, I agree with you, like Brandon, like I think like this, like the documentary was super well put together. I think it was well researched. Like they caught Adam back in a few different like like predicaments where it was like, yeah, I didn't get to this until this date, and it was like, yeah, bro, you were you were talking about Bitcoin and suggesting changes in 2012, and you're talking about you didn't start getting into this until 2013, 2014. So there's literally years of gaps that like these guys. But look, they thought it through. I don't think they ever saw an HBO documentary in their future, but kudos to them for keeping it for this long. And to be honest, nobody really did care, right? Like nobody, like if you're gonna find it and like really gauge sentiment, nobody really gave a shit on crypto Twitter. Is it me, or like people are just like, we're all Satoshi at this point? So yeah, it was good for fun. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the result of this is just that Peter Todd will now be included in the list of potential Satoshis. But yeah, I don't think it was definitive by all means. I think it's just interesting. Like when you look back, when I look back at the time that Bitcoin was created, I was just I either was or had like just graduated high school, and you know, thinking back to that time, right? Like during when I was in high school, that was when I had just gotten my first smartphone, right? We had like MySpace, and then like Facebook was starting to become a little bit bigger. Like just thinking back to like what technology was like at that time. And it was sort of just a perfect time for an anonymous person to launch something and not have too many people looking at it. Like I feel like if somebody tried to launch something like Bitcoin anonymously now, it would be so much more difficult to do, right? There's so much more surveillance and there's so much more advanced technology out there that I think it would be so difficult to do what Satoshi did now. So yeah, that was just something that I was also just thinking about is, putting things into perspective, I guess, on what the technology landscape was at that time. And, that's to say, I mean, it would have been, I think, a little bit easier to be anonymous back then. But you still would have had to have had a lot of thinking. I mean, I'm a similar age, I think, to Peter Todd. I wouldn't have known what the hell I was doing back then to stay anonymous and to be masked as Satoshi. And he's probably a much smarter guy than I am. But yeah, I just think back to like when I was like 15 or 16, creating Bitcoin. Like no way, no way could I have done that.
Yeah, that is one of the biggest criticisms that people do bring up about, it's impossible for Peter Todd to have invented Bitcoin. I mean, you never know. Like I know Vitalik was young when he invented, Ethereum, and we know that's not perfect, but there are some brilliant people out there. You can't be ageist in that direction. You're like, maybe it's possible, but yeah, a little bit of a red flag. Like, can a 14, 15-year-old have this much prescience and technical skill and know-how?
Yeah, I think one of the, going back to Dave's point, one of I think the bigger gotchas was Peter Todd claiming that he like didn't know the coding language C++. Was it C or C++ or one of those coding languages? And the director was able to find like a really old version of Peter Todd's website where he claimed to be proficient in that language. That to me was a pretty big, like, I don't know, gotcha, I guess. That was pretty interesting. I wish that he would have confronted Peter Todd on that to see what he would have said, kind of in response. I feel like Peter's response could have been like, oh, people lie on resumes a lot, right? To try to get new jobs. Like it could have been something like that. But still, I think that was a pretty interesting point that the director made.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest win of this documentary, as you guys pointed out, it is very well made, but this is such like, if someone's scrolling through HBO looking for a good documentary to watch, they're going to find this, they're going to be intrigued. Like, yeah, are they going to reveal, like, I would like to know who Satoshi is. And then all of a sudden they've been presented with this deep dive into what Bitcoin is, and they're learning about the Bitcoin history, and they're going to like have all these things click. They're going to get orange pilled just because they were trying to figure out who Satoshi Nakamoto is. So maybe this is going to unlock the next wave of like retail who got orange pilled because of this documentary. I think that's the biggest win of this.
I agree. I feel like I haven't recommended any of my friends to watch this yet, but I feel like it is a great recommendation to get your feet wet with Bitcoin, right? I think it's a great starting point to come out of the documentary with questions, right? That you're going to want to then go and continue to research it. So definitely a really great tool to onboard some more people into Bitcoin. And that is good for Bitcoin.
That's right. Question one.
To wrap it up.
Yeah. Nice. Well, that's everything, right?
I think, yeah.
About Peter Todd and the RGB protocol. So everyone should check that out because Leather is always on top of it.
Yeah, that RGB thread was so interesting. That was one of the, I feel like that was one of the first threads that I ever wrote on the Trust Machines account that went pretty viral. Looking at that tweet, it has like over 100,000 views, which at the time, that's still a lot, but at the time that was a ton. So that was pretty cool to have that kind of kick off. And we ended up doing like several Twitter spaces with some of the folks at RGB. That was a really cool time when RGB was really popping off over a year ago. But let's see, to Dave's point about the FBI listening in, this show is recorded and is published to Spotify. So please go subscribe to Good for Bitcoin on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. We record live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Also check out Leather Lounge, which is hosted by Sean every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thanks to everybody for joining. Thank you especially to Dave for coming up and speaking with us. Thank you to some of our friends down here in the audience. Thank you to Shaylee as well for coming up a little earlier. See some other folks down there. I know, Sean, you already gave a shout out to Good Kitty and Trippin' Monkey. I see Mr. Wagme in the audience. We got Zero in the audience. Man, we got some really great folks in the audience right now. But thank you guys so much for listening in. We try to keep these shows short and sweet to about an hour. And we will see you. Well, actually, I will not see you next week because I'm actually going to be going on a little vacation. But Sean and Kate will see you next week. We will continue the show even when I'm not here. So excited to listen back to that one. The one that you guys did a couple weeks ago when I also was out was very good. So looking forward to listening back to that. But until then, have a great weekend and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. We record Good for Bitcoin live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on X. Please follow us at Trust Machines Co. if you would like to listen and engage with us live. Visit us at trustmachines.co for all the latest Bitcoin news. We'll see you next week.